cannabis is a fun but also serious business. Cannabis, as you all know, is used as a wellness product to help heal, and it's also a product that just many people say makes you a better person. So I want to speak with you guys about the wellness aspect and also the business aspect. But let me start with Marvin, if I could. You played 11 seasons in the NFL. You've seen what cannabis can do. You even took cannabis to the highest court of the United States. In your view, how do you see cannabis progressing in terms of the stigma declining, in terms of it becoming more accepted, not just by the American public, but Congress and federal regulators coming on board? Are we any closer than we were, say, 2 years ago when that case was, I think, at its high point? Correct me if I'm wrong. And when you were playing football, are we any closer?
We're way closer than we were when I played football. I consider that the dark ages. But as far as Congress and the legislators go, I think we're making progress when you have the Biden administration, Joe Biden said they want to deschedule cannabis, which to me, I don't think it should be scheduled, because if they schedule and take it to a Schedule 3, it's going to be on the same schedule as ketamine and steroids, which you're going to have to get with a prescription. Alcohol is not scheduled, and I don't think cannabis should be scheduled either. But we're making progress, since I got into the industry. We're making progress since I got in the industry with sports teams. Just like yesterday, the New York Liberty, the WNBA team, and the Nets signed on for CBD, and I had a meeting last week in Queens with a baseball team, and they're gonna on board with CBD this year. So it's happening, slowly and all at once. It's happening.
Yeah, excellent. All right, hey, Bo, let me ask you. Now, you are the CEO of All Pro Farms, a cannabis company in Colorado. Colorado is one of those mature markets, like Oregon, California, even here in Massachusetts. Now we're, I guess, considered a mature market now that some stores are closing down because of oversaturation. Being in this business as long as you have now, how does a cannabis company survive oversaturation in a mature market?
I think it has a lot to do with just planning and execution, just like, any other industry. You got to really take your time and outline, your strategies and the things that you need to do to be successful, and really understand your business and how it flows and how it works. So, for me on my side, it's just keeping my customers happy and making sure I maintain those relationships with everybody so business is flowing. So it's been a tough time for everybody out here, but I do enjoy the competition. Like that's the industry and the background that we all have. So the fight to the top and the fight to stay alive is something that I thrive in, and I enjoy doing it. So it gives you the chance to really show your creativity and how well you can run your business.
Excellent. Hope, you're in one of these. Well, it's somewhat established as a medical market, but new as a recreational market. Tell us, A, how the recreational market has been for you so far, and B, how did you make the transition? What did you feel you needed to do to successfully make the transition from medical to recreational?
Yeah, so I'm in Maryland, for those that don't know. We went adult use in July of last year. Now we're in 2024. And it was great. We were prepared for it because it's been something that has been talked about for years. So, we were prepared for it. But I don't think that we were ready for the increase. I mean, it was amazing. And most new markets see that for the first 2 to 3 years, and then you see them start to mature out and plateau. So right now we're in that, these are the good years for a new emerging market. And then another unique thing about Maryland is a limited license state. In our first round, we only licensed about 100 dispensaries, 25 growers, 25 processors. So everyone has a really great opportunity to capitalize over these 2 or 3 years before new licenses come into the market.
Excellent. All righty. Frank, I want to ask you about the Nevada market. That is, again, I think one of the more mature markets. Adult use was legalized there in 2016, and I think Nevada got its adult use market up and running like 6 months after it passed, compared to us in Massachusetts, where we passed that same election, but didn't get our first rec store open up in 2018. So what makes Nevada such a great state to be a cannabis operator? And what makes it so forward-looking and getting things done, it seems like?
I think the money. The politicians understood early on additional revenue. And as you know, with new football team, new baseball team, new marijuana business, Las Vegas is always on the upward move, trying to make sure they're, on top of their game, keep bringing visitors in. But as far as I'm concerned, it was strictly all financials. If there wasn't any money in it, Nevada would not have approved it.
Right.
Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting. And let me ask you that this, there's a lot of talk about Las Vegas or Nevada being one of the early states to adopt cannabis lounges. Are you hearing anything about that? Is that just talk, or is it a real thing?
Yeah, no, they've gone through the process. All of us that had dispensaries were entitled to a consumption lounge and are grandfathered in, and they approved 20, 10 independent and 10 social equity. Unfortunately, and that's going to be a story for another day, social equity are having a hard time. The other problem is finding a location that meets the distance requirements for the independent lounges. But the Indian reservation or the Indian dispensary has always had a consumption lounge. They're doing well. Some of the bigger guys have been approved by the Cannabis Control Board, but not by the local governments. But we will see them coming online this year. One of the challenges is going to be how they address the single serving, and then how do you monetize that business without a dispensary connected to it or above it or below it, and if you're just trying to have a consumption lounge by itself. So the challenge there is going to be monetizing it. And what most people don't know about is 280E. So they're going to be affected by that, and they probably don't have any idea.
Yeah, excellent. All righty. Eugene, let me ask you a couple questions if I could here. If I understand correctly, you're a partner in GTI and have also, if I read correctly, have tried to get licenses in New Jersey and Washington, D.C. If I got that correct.
So co-founder of GTI, no longer there. I've started my own company, Collective 60, where we just applied for licenses in Maryland. So we're waiting here where I live currently. And we're also in pursuit of, we're raising capital for our build in New Jersey. So just attacking these East Coast markets where we still see a lot of growth opportunity.
Yeah. So you're really in the thick of the application process. I mean, what do you see as being necessities to be successful in this application process, and what are some of the lessons that you've learned so far from applying in these two markets?
Well, the application processes aren't what they used to be. They aren't, overly competitive. You check the boxes and you strategize properly. And Maryland, there's a lottery system. New Jersey, they're awarding licenses to anyone who applies and has their ducks in a row. Unique differences to each of those markets. Maryland being uniquely positioned with the limited licenses, as Hope mentioned. There's some limitations to New Jersey's market because the municipalities were able to opt out of the program. So you're limited in real estate, and then prices are skyrocketed in areas where the real estate is available with appropriate cannabis zoning. So, finding those locations, and then also, dealing with the reality that, pre-COVID, it costs a lot less to build, right? So the financial constraints of construction become a barrier as well. So, properly positioning yourself with a game plan, a team, and being able to capitalize your plans is critical.
Hey, Eugene, if I'm hearing you correctly, would it be, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but would it be right to say that in some ways it's become a little easier to go through the application process just because there's not as much competition, but it's also harder because you also need a lot of capital to get through the application process, and capital has become a lot harder to come by. Is that right?
The application processes themselves are also less expensive to go through than they used to be. And the fact that more licenses become available, competition increases. I think it's good for the consumer. I think what I hear a lot in New Jersey is people are tired of what they've been getting. So seeing new companies who are skilled and care about what they're doing and treat this with the craft approach is going to be welcome in both Maryland and New Jersey.
Yeah, excellent. All righty. Delvin, let me ask you, you played with the New Orleans Saints and also up in the Canadian Football League, so you've got some familiarity with that market. Did you ever consider going into Canada, or did you ever make comparisons? Do you see major differences between the Canadian market and the American market?
Yes. Yeah, I did see a big difference being in Canada, where it's been legal for a minute since 2018, and now they have a whole bunch of organic things that they're doing and growing their businesses as far as different extraction companies and oils and things that they're doing out there. And then when I came back to the U.S., like it's like a late push or a late start to everything, right? So it's kind of like, should I get an early start in Canada and learn it, or should I come to the U.S. and dive into the soil and learn about the business there? So all this, these guys are very knowledgeable for me, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, excellent. Mike, now if I understand correctly, you're a partner in Lion Order, which is affiliated with the Marley family. I think you're working, is it with Rohan Marley on that
Yes.
one, or he's involved in that company. And of course, there are other cannabis companies that are affiliated with celebrities. Snoop, of course, Willie Nelson, and there are others. What was it like to work with a celebrity or someone who's well known, like the Marley family? What are some do's and don'ts?
Well, it's been very amazing. And the difference is with other celebrity brands and Rohan, that we're not a celebrity brand. Rohan is hands-on. I mean, we're deeply rooted in Rastafari culture. I mean, and he's the CEO of our company. He's constantly on calls. He's constantly doing things. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to the movie premiere in Miami. So, I mean, we're constantly, inside the brand. It's not one of those things where Rohan just shows up and just does an appearance on a vendor day. I mean, he's in it every day. I mean, he's on the groundwork. He's on the call. So, I mean, it's different from other celebrity brands. I never worked in any other, but I know for ours, Rohan is very hands on.
Nice, excellent. All righty. Marvin, let me come back to you if I could. I believe that you had a CBD business, CBD water business for a while. What happened to that? What were the challenges? How did things work out? What are some do's and don'ts from that experience?
That company, it's still operational, but
Okay.
I was able to extract my water company out of there and connect and merge with another company. And we're doing pretty good with it. And I think we're going to be one of the next companies that have some type of sponsorship agreement with the major league team. We've changed the formula of the water. We've done a lot of things. And so right now we're trying to get FDA approval, which should be done in about 6 weeks. And yeah, it's doing well. It's doing well.
Let me follow up on one of those things. You talked about how you guys are pursuing sponsorship with a professional sports team. For other entrepreneurs who may be interested in doing something like that, what has your been experience so far? What are, again, maybe some do's and don'ts that you would advise your cannabis entrepreneur peers on how to pull off something like that?
Well, I think most people know on this call is who you know. And you'll see a lot of teams, they're waiting on federal approval, particularly with NFL teams. But the other leagues that are looking to generate income and trying to be forward thinking, they're very receptive to it, be it the National Hockey League, be it Major League Baseball and NBA. They're more progressive. The NFL is kind of conservative. They put some money behind it with the research, but I think they're going to be a follower on this as far as medicating treatment with plant-based medicine.
Got it. Okay. Let me ask you this. Again, we talked about how you were in Colorado and the oversaturated market there. Do you guys ever consider, going out of state, going maybe like the MSO route, or is that just too much of, is that something that's plausible now, or is it a headache given where the market is?
I think, our plans internally is to expand in other markets and really just allow the brand to travel. All the headaches that everybody's mentioning and, the processes of licensing and stuff like that, like finding a smoother route that doesn't require all the capital, I think probably works best for us. As Marvin just mentioned, it's all about who you know. So, being able to dive in these other markets and work with other athletes, like the people on this call, and introduce them to cannabis and allow them to, get a taste of building a brand and being a part of an already established brand that meets their needs and, follows their missions and those type of things. I mean, that's what we're thinking about and what we're moving towards 24 and beyond.
Let me just follow up on that if I could. We all know that the last couple of years have been especially rough for the cannabis business. But some people say with the talk of rescheduling and, the economy loosening up a little bit, that things might be getting better. And maybe a good time to make moves like that. Do you see that happening? Do you feel better about the way things are now than they were 18, 24 months ago?
I was meeting with an owner the other day, and just the simple fact of being able to use and process debit and credit cards will increase business dramatically. So, obviously getting the banks and everything involved, being able to borrow money and, use other avenues instead of private equity to fund your business will be helpful to, all the companies. So I think those are just two major hurdles that we need to get over, and we'll see another uprising.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Hey, Hope, let me ask you this question. You've been with Marion Maine for several years now, a classic small business in an industry that is, there's a lot of big players out there that are gobbling up small businesses. What does it take to survive as a small business in this type of environment?
I preach this all the time. So people who listen to me speak all the time, I've heard this before, but it's staying lean. I think in cannabis, a lot of people see a lot of shiny objects and they're trying to run towards them. A lot of people want to immediately grow really fast before they have their business sound. And that's, that typically doesn't work. And you don't see people doing it in other industries. Our industry is unique and it's emerging. Now is the time to get in on the ground floor in a lot of markets, but really you can build a sound business in, regionally or even in one state. Or you can go an asset light route like Bo talked about before and, just go take your brand into new markets after you've established yourself in one or two. So I feel like, staying lean and then being smart about where you're located and not trying to do too much at once is how you can survive. And just not, don't try and keep up with the Joneses. Just do what works for your business and work on becoming profitable, however that looks. You don't have to have the best marketing, the best build out, the best anything. You just have to reach profitability because you're likely doing better than that competitor that you think looks better than you.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. Frank, you're in a super active market there in Las Vegas. I think it's home to Planet 13, which I believe is the biggest dispensary in the country. There's a lot of other dispensaries there, and you guys get a lot of Las Vegas gets a lot of tourists. Is that a demographic that you guys try to appeal to? Is it worth it? And what kind of maybe, if you do, what kind of special promotions or special deals do you try to do to get tourists to come into your door?
That's a good question, and I have a better answer. So I'm gonna tie into what Hope said. You need to know your market, because just because they're the big boys in their public doesn't mean they're making money. If you look at their financials, I won't mention, but just go and look at the last page and you'll see what the real deal is. But the key is to be profitable. In Las Vegas, it is all about the tourists. But our business, we are dependent 100%, even though we get tourists, we're dependent on locals. Because if we have what happened a few years ago and Las Vegas dried up, most folks went away. So a combination, but understanding your market, breaking even, and being true to yourself and true to your customer, and I think you'll survive. We have, as you know, two dispensaries and a cultivation. So our survival, we can grow our own, supply our own, market our own, and then dispense, whether that be through the 2 stores or hopefully soon to be delivery service.
Eugene, I want to ask you this, again, since you're still in the thick of the application process, a big, part of that is building, a strong team. And I think there's still a lot of entrepreneurs that don't realize that sort of pick their members maybe without doing as much vetting as they should. Can you talk a little bit about how you surrounded yourself with the right people and built the right team for this?
Really through experience, right? I had an opportunity to build cannabis businesses from inception to profitability. And as a result, I understand the systems, I understand cultivation, I understand, the pieces that need to be in place. And I don't really need to, seek consulting to build those teams and put those pieces together. Everyone's not in that position. And that also doesn't mean that if you don't have those assets that you can't build those teams. But it's important to, know and like who you're working with, regardless of which situation you find yourself in. Because it is not going to be rosy. You are going to have hurdles, and you want to ensure that the team that you build are people that are willing to stay in the boat with you when it's rocking. That's for sure. I think that's the most critical bit I can give on that point.
So, all right. Yeah, you got to have people who you can trust, who will be loyal, who will stand by you and not run at the first sign of trouble.
And also, people who have overcome hurdles, who have solved the problems, right? There's a lot of startups. But, when you look at, early market opportunity on the East Coast, you want to hit the ground hard and have a team that has demonstrated that success before. So I think that's of great importance as well.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are in your business journey? If I read correctly, you were trying to break into the CBD industry. Is that the case still, and how's that going?
Yes. Well, like I said, I'm just an advocate first. I'm a cannabis man. I broke my neck, my C4, C5, C6 vertebrae back in high school, and was the first player to make it to the NFL with having that injury, and finding cannabis and the love for it and understanding the medicinal properties it has to your body. It just made me fall in love with it, man. And I want to get into business. I want to, be able to educate and help the masses on cannabis, right? So I just actually signed a partnership deal with this company, Indigo Hemp, down here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, man, to where I can market and advocate and educate the community about cannabis, man. So I'm going in the right direction, and being on this Zoom call lets me know I'm in the right direction. So it's pretty cool, man.
Let me ask you this, Delvin. Being an activist, right, and you're and also a former professional football player, what, in your view, can cannabis businesses, be they dispensaries or cultivators or some other brand, what can they do to better connect with people who are athletes and who might benefit from the wellness attributes of cannabis? Do you feel like the cannabis businesses that you're familiar with, are they making an effort to make this connection with the athletic crowd, or not so much?
Yeah, man. So the connecting between cannabis companies and athletes has definitely been a challenge. Like I said, it's been about 5 or 6 years that I've been trying to get into a company, especially down here in Louisiana, where the market is just kind of starting to open. But I've been trying to reach out to companies to be like, hey, I want to be the face of a brand company. Like I'm really, exceed the benefits of this plant, man, and how it's making my body feel in my everyday life. I can move in this confidence. So now that I have partnered with a company, I want to make the push. I want to be able to be that guy to start making that push for more cannabis companies to reach out to these athletes, because we are the epitome of injuries, of pain, and suffering and stuff like that. So I want to be the face, and hopefully more cannabis companies can see that and they can reach out to more athletes.
Hey, Mike, I want to ask you that same question, just because you're on the other side, though, as someone who's involved in the who's on the cannabis business side of things. Have you guys tried to make connections or appeal to the athletic crowd, or use cannabis's wellness attributes to appeal to people who might be into fitness or athletics, or is that something that you guys maybe don't do so much?
Well, I mean, that's something that we definitely believe in. And my background, is about cannabis and athletics. I was the first professional athlete to fill out a therapy use of exemption for medical marijuana. So I highly believe in some kind of athletic coalition for us to continue to push the message forward. So Lion Order's doing that. I mean, we had a few different conversations with a few different people. Everyone on this call I'm pretty familiar with, I had conversations with. So I mean, just trying to get a serious coalition together where we can really push things forward. We can implement wellness programs in not only NFL, but the NBA and so on and so forth, where cannabis is a medicine that's respected and used for the athletes. I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, it's been something that we talked about on our side, and just get more athletes together to get that coalition done in some way, form, or fashion.
Okay. Hey, Marvin, let me ask you this. I'm sure you're well aware of this hemp-derived cannabinoid trend. It's more than a trend, really. It's an overnight sensation that's been taking place in these last 6 years. Hemp-derived Delta 8, hemp-derived Delta 9, and so on. It's a booming market. In some states, it's prohibited. Some states have let it go wide open. What do you make of it? Is this something that is good for the cannabis industry? Is it something that that opens up access to people who might not otherwise have access, or is it like a dangerous experiment, or something in between?
I think it's all of that, and that's why I think we need some guidance and some regulation on that, because different states are banning it, and in some states it's wide open. But talking to different people that have used Delta 8 or Delta 9, that's their entry into cannabis or hemp and what have you, and particularly with baby boomers and Generation X, they're easing into it, and they're having good experiences with it. But for, the Z generation or what have you, I do know about some issues there with Delta 8 or Delta 9. But ultimately, it's going to have to all come under regulation, and I would like to see that happen sooner than later. But I'm a plant-based advocate, be it CBD, hemp, THC, or even a mushroom, like microdose mushrooms every day. And so I'm trying to push all of this forward, but I think we need a little bit of regulation on that side of it.
Hey, Robert, let me follow up on that. If I heard you correctly, you're microdosing mushrooms, and a lot of people talk about psychedelics industry and the cannabis industry having a lot in common, combining. Do you see that happening sooner or later? And what will it take for those industries to sort of find some synergies that they could each?
I think there's a lot of synergy, because both of them are doing something that's natural, that's been here for millions of years. And as far as the psychedelics, I think as far as the government is concerned and regulators are concerned, I think it's further ahead than cannabis. And I think you're going to see some FDA approved functional mushrooms that are going to come out of this over, the next quarter or two. So they're a little bit ahead of us because the government sponsored most of the psychedelic training or treatment that was happening back in the 60s, and then they cut it off. But they understand it. They understand that, that one molecule instead of, all the cannabinoids and what have you. But there are synergies there, and I try to tell people, like, telling my community about psychedelics. I think taking in moderation, I think it can be good. I definitely for the athletic community with depression, with head trauma, I think it's a positive. And I got introduced to it about 3 years ago, and I had to, experiment with it a little bit and went on a couple of trips. But the trips were fine because I was wondering why my body didn't feel like this all the time. And so now I take it, and it's like, 10, oil for the Tin Man for me. It works, man. It definitely works. So it's all plant-based, from thousands of years ago. This is the medicine that we use, whether it's the village, a doctor in Africa, or whether it's a showman over here with the Native Americans. We've been using plant-based medicine, man. So it's all connected.
Yeah. Hey, let me follow up with that, Marvin, if I could. So I really am fascinated by the fact that psychedelics have gotten to go, have gone so much further in a short time than cannabis. It's taken us so long to get where we are, so many years. Why do you think it took such a shorter time for psychedelics to get where they are? I mean, is it just the overall stigma about plant-based?
Well, to be honest, it was who was using it, and cannabis was a medicine for over 80 years in this country. Then you had, Henry Anslinger and Anslinger, and then you definitely had Richard Nixon, and everybody knows the history of that.
Government prohibitionists.
Yeah, but the groups that he targeted with cannabis being put on prohibition were, the hippies and black men, and the minorities. That's what he was going after. And with psychedelics, the government was sponsoring this with Dr. Leary, Timothy Leary, and those guys, and they didn't look like us, so it got further along. They had a tremendous head start, and they didn't have all that stigma to it, because they were doing treatments and experiment with it back in the 60s, like I said, and the government was sponsoring it. And so now we're catching up, we're changing the stigma of it and showing that it's medicine, because as I've always said, nobody's getting high just to get high. Everybody's, if you're taking cannabis, whether you're smoking, whether you're doing an edible, whatever, you're trying to feel better. It's medicine. And so it's going to get there, but it's all going to come together. It's all going to come together, plant-based medicine, which we were medicating, like I said, for thousands of years.
Yeah. But, I want to ask you this again, as being the CEO of this cannabis cultivation company in Colorado. I'm sure you're following the talk about the rescheduling of cannabis, and one of the, I guess, consequences or result of that could be the elimination of 280E. We talked earlier in the conversation about what a major pain point 280E is. But people are saying that if cannabis is rescheduled, we won't have to deal with 280E anymore. If you as a business owner didn't have to deal with 280E, what would that do for you?
Well, for me on the cultivation side, I don't have to deal with 280E. 280E is more so for sellers. So it doesn't allow them to write off, normal business expenses that, companies are usually get able to write off. So on the cultivation side, we do get that privilege, and it definitely does margins.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Well, Hope, let me ask you that. If same question. If we get to the point where 280E, if cannabis is rescheduled and 280E is no longer an issue, you can deduct your expenses. What is that going to do for a business owner like yourself?
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Right now, like Bo was saying, we can't write off any typical business expenses. So that's salaries, our rent, marketing expenses, a lot of things that, people at the end of the day, these are the things that make your business run, right? So we don't have a choice. We have to do it. And, just to use simple math, if I made $1 million, half of that is cost of goods sold. So $500,000, I would be taxed at that as my profit, that I made $500,000. When in all reality, we know I'm likely spending almost all of that for the other things to operate my business: salaries, rent, marketing, other business expenses. So it would significantly change things for retailers and the industry as a whole. I think that rescheduling, although it's not exactly what we want to see, it is an incremental change that gets us towards where we want to be. And I think that it will kind of ignite the markets again. Positive headlines that have meant nothing have kind of shot, the stock market up and made it something that was positive for us. So I think that that will have actual impact on a lot of companies, will bring some more capital back into the industry and kind of reignite it, and hopefully will reignite the government to start moving towards, real legalization legislation, because this isn't quite it, but it's something. We'll take it.
Moving forward. Yeah. Hey, Frank, same question to you, because it is such an important thing. I hear people talk about the elimination of 280E as being a game changer for cannabis businesses. Do you see it that way? Is that a reasonable hope to have, that 280E could be history in a year?
I do. That's all I care about. Get rid of 280E. As far as being a distributor, I don't care about anything else. They don't get rid of 280E, you got phantom income. That means you're paying taxes on money you don't put in your pocket. And if you are a C corporation or you're a public corporation, it's different. But if you're a small business and you own the business and you're operating as an LLC or anything other than a C corp, then that tax goes directly to you. And that phantom income that you did not, that they put on you, you're going to be paying the government money that you did not make. So you're going to be out of business before long.
Okay. Eugene, same question. Again, important issue. If 280E were something that you didn't have to worry about 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, what would that do for you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, for all the operators who've expressed it, it'd be materially different. If you weren't being taxed the way that they are, especially for us, right? You might have a break if you're in cultivation, but we've got plans to be vertical and operate retail as well. So we're planning for it to not be removed, right? We're gonna approach this conservatively because we don't know when that's gonna happen. But it certainly changed things if we didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, same question. What would the elimination of 280E do for you as an entrepreneur?
Omar, Mike had to hop off at 2.
Oh goodness, I'm sorry. That's right. Thank you. You mentioned that. All right, Delvin. Let me come back to you, my friend. Again, as an activist, what kind of progress do you see being made, or has been made, from when you were playing pro football to where we are today? Would you call the progress a little, medium, a lot? And what do you see happening in the next 2 to 6 years? What kind of progress do you see being made in terms of cannabis legalization and just the American public having a better understanding of cannabis as a wellness product?
Yeah, I see a trending forward market, especially with NFL and everything, and how they're not drug testing. The guys are looking for it in their samples or whatnot. So it's going in the right direction. I love it. It ain't where we want to be yet, right? We want it to be able. We want it to be able to be at everybody's expense, right? They can just go to the dispensary and grab it, right? That's what we want. But obviously we have to play by the rules and get the understanding. But I see it's trending in the right direction. And as far as the education side of the legislation, I think right now we should just continue to keep doing more, just keep talking about it, keep bringing the conversations about it, especially to the ones who are not adapted yet or still have that stigma, still, their minds about cannabis. So as long as the activists can continue to keep speaking about it, especially athletes who have a platform, talk about cannabis, let them people know how it affects your body, your mind, your emotional state. And then I think we can get more of a faster change. So, yeah.
Hey, Marvin, let me come back to you again with a sort of the advocacy and outreach question here. If I read correctly, you have a radio show where you get to talk about cannabis issues, which is a great way to reach people. What are some things that cannabis businesses and advocates can be doing, should be doing to have further reach, to their audience, whether they be advocates or consumers you're trying to reach?
The thing is that we're in the cannabis industry, and I even fell into that trap myself of thinking everybody knew about it. But sometimes we're preaching to the choir because everybody on this call, you go to the conventions and especially pre-pandemic, what have you, and you're around cannabis people. But going back to Texas, doing a football camp in Idaho and trying to talk about it, people are literally, clutching their pearls. But you have to talk about it, as medicine and in a responsible way, and tell them the difference between cannabis and the opiates and the benzodiazepines that are being dispensed, to the detriment of society. And what I would tell people is don't think that everybody is educated on it. Talk about it responsible, talk about it, what it does and what it does not do. Don't act like it's, the magic bullet and the cure all for everything, which people in this industry kind of do. But especially when you're in a place that is prohibited. And some people, whether they visit the place or have family there, they don't know. They do not know whether it's coming from an educator that's saying she doesn't want it around kids, where you have to educate and say, well, kids take it. The kids that have the epileptic seizures and things of that nature, they take it, were you talking to the clergy? This is not tobacco or alcohol that we're trying to bring into the community. This is medicine that we're trying to bring into the community. So you got to talk about it responsible, talk about the benefits of it. Don't talk about it like it's, Cheech and Chong. And I hate to say that because I know those guys and they're preaching responsibility now. But just don't assume that everybody knows about cannabis. Don't assume that that's accepted yet, because there's a large swath of the country where it's not accepted medically or recreationally.
Yeah. Well, what does when you're pitching somebody, not pitching, but when you're speaking to somebody in Idaho or Wyoming, what have you, or Texas about cannabis, what are you trying? What does it sound like? What are the persuasion points?
It depends on who it is, but it's mostly about education. It's about education. If it's somebody in my community, like in Dallas, whatever, I tell them about, the medicinal benefits of it. I tell them about the history of cannabis. I can tell them about the economic benefits of it. Like if I'm speaking in Harlem, I'm so happy that it's here, and it's gonna take some time in Manhattan. But I was speaking to a group up there a year and a half ago, about dispensaries and the plant. And I was like, no, it's going to be an economic boom for it once it gets to the place it's supposed to be, because, you can gentrify your own neighborhood with the money that it's going to bring into it. So it depends on the audience that I'm speaking to. But it's always based on facts and not like hyperbole, like, cannabis cures everything. I speak on the facts and the things that it's done for me. I take it every day. And like, it makes my body feel better. My mental acuity is better. It has a lot of benefits.
Yeah. Hey, but let me switch gears a little bit. Again, as a cultivator, I was curious to get your take on what are some of the new technologies, new instruments that are being used in cultivation to make better cannabis products. Some people are using AI, supposedly. Some people are using other types of automation. Is that something that you get into, or did you see it having a role in the cannabis industry?
It's definitely having a role. You know, a lot of it is overpriced right now. So, you know, like people who are the early adopters are going to spend a bunch of money on that stuff without even being proven to work. You know, everyone's mentioned on this, you know, this Zoom today about running lean and being able to operate lean. So, you know, all that stuff factors in it. Do you really need this stuff? Is it going to really help you make money? Help you improve your operations? Those are questions that you got to go through as a business owner. Like, how is this really going to help me? And do we really need it? So it's about finding that balance. Obviously, you know, in cultivation, you want to collect as much data as possible to help your outcomes and make sure that you're producing a consistent product that people are enjoying and stuff like that. So the more technology you can use to help those things and to automate and not really overspend on labor, those are the areas where I probably see the most impact in new technology. Lights are going to be lights. They're always going to come out with new lights. They're always going to come out with new benches, trays, dehumidifiers, a lot of that type of stuff. So you can still get by with, you know, the standard stuff that they've been using for years, and you're going to still be able to produce a great crop. It's all about that environment. So if you can find a way to dial that environment and you don't have to spend or overspend, and that's the best route usually.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Bo. I've just been informed that we have time for a couple more questions, so we're going to have to go into our what do you call it, 2-minute drill. So let me go with Hope here. We have been talking a lot about being lean to survive. You know, with 2024 still mostly ahead of us, are there some points in your business that you're looking to maybe do some trimming? What are some ways that you're looking to be to get your business a little leaner in 2024?
You know, we were in a medical only market for 5 years, and then we're now in adult use. So I wouldn't say that we're really like looking at leaning out right now. We're looking at how we can maximize our current license as well as look at other opportunities, right? So we want to be able to say that this current store that we have is doing the most money it could possibly do out of it before we really go on to the next store. And right now, honestly, that's not a lean time. You know, we're looking at opportunities that where we can reinvest in the business and make more money from it. So I am strategically looking at how I do that. I'm not necessarily going out and buying every billboard in Maryland, which is not even allowed, because that's not going to create the direct return on the investment that I would need. However, potentially investing in hiring, like I just hired a new marketing director that I'm paying a lot more than I would have, you know, last year in the medical only market, but I am seeing a direct return on that investment quickly. So I'm strategically making decisions and still staying lean, but investing in operations that will create revenue.
Last question here. If I recall right, Frank, you won the Super Bowl in 1984.
That's correct.
Could you have imagined in 1984 having this discussion that we're having in 2024 today?
Not at all. Guys were smoking back then, but they weren't talking about running operations and cultivations and being in some of the largest cities in the world and doing business all over the world, which a lot of athletes, I'm glad to see so many guys here and ladies too involved, and thanks to MJBiz for making a connection. But yeah, there's a big old world out there. And just like, you know, 16 of us involved here, there's hundreds that we don't even know about. But some kind of way, we got to keep bringing people together and keep talking about the plant. My big thing, I'm a big plant supporter. I'm not real big on all of the, you know, the concentrates and all of that, because that's not what helped me and what helps me today. But I'm a big supporter of the plant, and I want to see more of us in this business participating, making money, and growing their business so that they have a legacy to pass down. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I think that's a good note to end on. What do you say, guys? Final whistle?
Right, that was good.
All
Oh man, I just want to say, everyone, first of all, you have a ton of fans in the comments, so you need to check them out. But it's just been such a tremendous honor to have you all here
Yeah.
with us today. We know you're busy getting geared up for the Super Bowl. So we really appreciate your willingness to step up and advocate for the plant and, share your business insights and advice. So thank you again for being here, and we look forward to connecting, hopefully at MJBizCon in December.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Many thanks, guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
Enjoy the
everyone.
Super Bowl
Yeah.
Yeah.
or a bowl.